If any of the events I mentioned in this video play out in 2025, you need to sell your tokens immediately. Now, I'm not saying this to kind of cause a shock. I am being 110% real with you. In today's video, I'm going to mention things that have either happened in the 2021 bull run or things that I have noticed are going to cause a cataclysmic event in the next bull run. And I do believe one or multiple of these things will most definitely play out. And the one I'm about to mention, I can for certain say it definitely will. And it happened in the last one as well. Now let's begin, guys, because I think this is a very, very serious topic. And for all you beginners out there, you really do need to pay attention because ultimately you haven't had the experience of one or multiple bull runs in the past. You don't know what actually happens. And you look at someone like me preaching, all of this stuff about how you need to be very, very prepared for the bull run, and you're going to disregard it. And what's going to happen? You are literally going to be absolutely taken advantage of like it's no tomorrow. Okay. You don't have the time at that point to do the research, to do the due diligence, because you're still at work, don't have time at home to go in there and put the hours in. So use this time very, very wisely. Now, what is this first thing that I've told you will 100% happen? Well, that's listening to Moon Boys, but not particularly Moon Boys, also crypto articles, websites that, mention Bitcoin's going to have a certain price tag on it at the end of the bull run or at the peak, whatever it might be. And while this seems trivial, right, there's a lot more under the surface here. Now, what did we find in the last bull run? What played out in that case? Well, Bitcoin was supposed to go to $100,000. Now, that obviously left a lot of us high and dry. A lot of us were waiting and waiting and waiting for something that never actually came, not even close. We were $30,000 off. Almost half the actual price of Bitcoin that it actually went to, right, at about $69,000. So we had a huge gap there. And what I've noticed, and it's very, very concerning, is I was on a call with a subscriber yesterday. He mentioned to me, he knows a couple Moon Boys who are already calling for a $300,000 Bitcoin. And these are the type of people that have channels with hundreds of thousands of subscribers. And people are extremely gullible for that type of thing. They think subscribers means quality, which pretty much in this day and age, it means the opposite at this point, right? So he was telling me a couple people were saying $300,000. And what does this do? Well, ultimately, I believe we have influencers on the end of the spectrum, right? We have people saying, hey, Bitcoin won't even hit $100,000 again. We have people saying Bitcoin's going to hit $300,000 again. What typically happens as we age, as we go on, probably well and truly past the halving, is these numbers start to come in and in and in until the influencers unanimously decide on a single number. Now, this is dangerous because this number could be 125,000, it could be 150,000, it could be 110,000. It doesn't matter. It's usually always going to be a pretty well-held number, right? 100, 110, 150, 175. And when they eventually land on this number, okay, what's going to happen? When they all go, we're going to agree on this number, well, it leaves us high and dry. We're expecting a certain price. And what happens? That number is set into the market. We find that the whales, and most importantly, the institutions who are manipulating this market, will begin to pay for advertisements for this price range. I mean, you can call me absolutely crazy, but we've seen it happen before, right? So we have these big players, these whales and these institutions behind the scenes paying, articles like Cointelegraph, Bitcoin.com, or CoinDesk, which do offer, price tags on creating articles, which they'll never tell you that they actually have created that for money. And then you go and believe them because they're a reputable source. Reputable, right? And so this is a very, very detrimental thing, as you can imagine, because you are exit liquidity. Who was exit liquidity last bull run? Us, the poor buggers who were thinking that Bitcoin was going to $100,000 because we were still buying at $69,000 at the top. So this is something to look out for, okay? Be very mindful. What do I tell people in just regular altcoin charts? When we're in uncharted territory, if you've never been to these positions before, what do you have to do? You must sell your tokens before these price levels. XRP or Cardano, everyone thinks $3 or $5 is the magic number. Sell well before that because there's going to be a lot of sell pressure at those numbers, and also because a lot of people are going to be taking advantage of you because you're still buying all the way up. So what I'm saying is if Bitcoin goes to $150,000, you should be selling at $130,000 or $120,000. Even if it does hit $150,000, you are much, much safer off. I'd like to briefly interrupt this program with a very special announcement. Guys, if you wanted to support all the hard work I put into making these videos for you, then there's two links down below I'm going to suggest you take a look at. The first is a sign up link to BitGet, which is one of the best exchanges in the space. These guys have a $300 million user protection fund, and and proof of reserve, so they're one of the safest exchanges and is the one I personally use for all my crypto investments. And for you non-traders out there, for you guys like me who prefer to invest and acquire the most important information and from the most reputable sources, then Token Metrics have also sponsored this channel, guys. They've offered you guys a free subscription to their basic plan, which is typically worth $20 a month or basically $200 a year. So please, if you take your investing seriously and want the most up-to-date information, go check out the links down below, guys. I've got you covered, and thank you for supporting me. Now, with that said, back to the video. Now, the next thing that you absolutely must be prepared for, and I cannot stress this enough, is regulation. We're about 2.5 years off possibly the peak of the next bull run here, and I honestly do think that regulation could definitely spawn in between now and then. There is obviously a long drawn-out process here, but we just don't know. And I feel my gut tells me it could actually come in sometime around that peak. So you need to be very well aware of when regulation comes in. Now, we have global regulation, and as you can see on the screen over here, we've got a few different countries like Japan and Australia that somewhat have, some sort of regulation already for crypto. And as we've known, obviously, over here, right, the United States has started to move in that direction. We've had a recent news of a bipartisan sort of agreement that they're looking to, or at least they agreed upon, moving forward some sort of framework for cryptocurrencies, which was fantastic, but this obviously takes a while, and that's only for the US. But as we all know, the US kind of leads the world in this sense. And I do think that, guys, you have to be very well aware, right? The XRP cases taught us that hopefully they're going to win, okay, to some degree. There will be some things, I believe, like in these investor rounds that we might have a little bit of pushback. But I believe XRP will win, but that's not providing regulation. When this framework comes in, guys, you got to understand, right? It's going to mean two things for crypto. It's going to mean we have commodities and we have securities, okay? Now, yes, as many people pointed out, both projects, a project can pretty much live in under both different regulators, right? So, of course, we have the Securities and Exchange Commission and the CFTC. Now, the CFTC, things are a bit looser. That's why everyone wants to be classified as a commodity, right? But if you're kind of classified as a security under the SEC, that means you have to adhere by so many different things. It makes it extremely hard for a startup crypto project or even a project that's got somewhat a decent sized team to maintain that. So what I'm saying to everyone here is we all hold altcoins of different sizes. When regulation comes in, I have said I wouldn't surprise me if we see like 24,000 altcoins just suddenly start to fly away down the line. Why? Because they will be classified as most likely a security, if that, and then they can't adhere to the different rules, right? So what's going to happen? Well, they're pretty much going to just draw the short straw here and go, okay, well, it's easier for us to step away from the project. We don't have too much money tied up in this, or even if they do, it might just be simpler. Again, the SEC have a whole heap of different sort of regulations and frameworks that they put in place here for these different companies classified as a security. And so therefore it creates a big mess, lots of paperwork, time, hassle, so on and so forth, right? So I could definitely see these sort of companies saying, no, we're not going to bother with that and shut shop up, okay? So I do think we'll see a better part of about 2,000 altcoins. Now I'm just throwing a number out there, but I do think 2,000 sounds like a very reasonable number to me. And I know, right? I hear a lot of people saying to me, Kyron, how can this be, right? We have layer one networks or privacy networks, so on and so forth. Like they're going to have their own sort of different things. It's like, yeah, cool. But all they have to do is regulate the base framework. All they have to do is regulate the layer one or the layer zero. And anything built on top of that stack, dApps, layer twos, anything like that has to then adhere by those rules, okay? Now, if it's a completely decentralized network in every sense of the word, right, they might be the ones that survive. And there's going to be these sort of shoot-offs like Casper with the K, for example, that are completely proof of work like Bitcoin, that aren't governed by anyone, that literally can survive in that case, but they're like the outlaw projects. That's the true cryptocurrencies, if you will, right? By the sense of adhering to decentralization, adhering to this philosophy of, your own sort of self-sovereign individual. So we have these different aspects. I'm just telling you guys right now, and I'm waving my hands around, really putting the picture out there to you, okay? Be damn aware. Projects are just going to throw the towel in, and that's what we want. We actually want this to happen because they're the ones that are trying to take your money, or they don't have skin in the game, okay? And they're the ones that you have to be very, very careful of, because those are the ones that wouldn't really give two craps if you lost your money, okay? So I am a big proponent of what is to come. And I do think what they're going to end up doing is just regulating the base frameworks, okay? The layer ones, layer zeros on all these popular altcoins. And if we come over here, actually back to the screen again, you'll see that the EU actually has some interesting rules or regulations coming in. As you see, July 11 over here, they're looking to mandate crypto asset white papers, okay? So the minimum standards and disclosure requirements for offerings and admissions to trading of crypto assets, right? So that's just going to be pretty much a white paper. So basically, altcoins or any project that wants to be a cryptocurrency has to have a white paper, and the white paper must state the following, right? Because this will allow investors like you and I to have an understanding of the project. At least we really should be reading the white paper, right? Who really reads the T's and C's apart from the crazy ones, right? But one thing I wanted to point out to you here was this, right? The main adverse impact on climate change and other environment-related impact of the consensus mechanism used to issue the asset. So for all you people saying to me, I'm crazy about talking about ESG, guys, they're literally mandating this for assets that want to be able to be, available in the EU, all right? That's not a small amount of countries or random, third world countries, need I say that. We're talking about developed first world countries leading the charge on many different things globally. So I'm telling you right now, this is coming. Finally, altcoins that have environmental aspects and at least are beneficial to the environment. And last but definitely not least is the double top. Now, I'm not a trader. I think most of us watching my channel aren't traders, but there is a very few trading terms we should all know. And one of those is the double top. Now, if we go over here and have a look at the previous bull run, what do we find? Well, we pretty much found a sort of double top, right? We pretty much had Bitcoin initially run up, had that peak moment, that retracement. Now, obviously, this looks a lot more realistic than what it typically does. Sometimes it even looks a bit more skewed than this in the moment because obviously we're talking about existing timeframes here. But essentially, we had this massive run up. We had this massive retracement a lot faster. And then we had this sort of two leg up, okay? So we came up, and essentially like a double top, okay? We were bang, bang on a longer time frame, right? And so why you have to understand this and why this is like a moment for you to sell immediately is when we have these tops, there are going to be certain narratives, aka certain projects that do a certain thing that perform extremely well in one or very rarely both. Often not. I haven't found a single narrative that has performed well on both, but one of these double tops, if you will, perform extremely well and you need to take profits. Now, I'm going to show you some examples here and kind of stress to you what happened in the last bull run, okay? So in this case, we're talking about DeFi, okay? So these are all DeFi projects, as you can see over here. And what I did essentially was just drag down when they had their top on all of them, right? There's how many are there here? Maybe 5, okay? And so we're using Aave for an example, and they all did the same, at least a little peaked at the same time, okay? In the first double top, all right? So they all peaked back over here. Now, what happened? Well, if you held off, if you were someone who maybe waited for Bitcoin to hit a certain price tag, or you were like, I'm just going to sell all my tokens at once, I'm not worried about DeFi because the rest of my portfolio isn't at what I believe are going to be their peaks, right? Well, you would never have sold again at that same price. Chances are you would have waited for Bitcoin to hit its peak. Bitcoin would have hit its peak. You would have been way down here, crashing, and you would have probably ended up selling somewhere down here. If not, probably still hold your tokens, right? So this is why narratives are important, because Aave, DeFi, had one certain sort of run up in that first top, okay? And what happened with, let's just use the example over here of gaming. Well, gaming had the opposite. Gaming didn't perform well over here in this top. Gaming performed well in the second top with Bitcoin, essentially. It lagged actually a little bit past Bitcoin, as you can see over here. And again, very important we take a look at this because you can actually take advantage. If you're someone who, for example, you find narratives or the projects that perform well in this part and you take advantage and you sell, you can then, again, we're not trying to time the top or bottom exactly, but even if you say sold and you bought back in over here, or bought in a different project, you could then go ahead and then sell back over here again, okay? So you sell, reinvest maybe into a different project or the same project if you wanted to, and then sell back over here, right? So you sell, buy, sell. Simple stuff. And this is why I'm telling you it's something that we definitely have to take advantage of because this is the shortcut way for you to double, triple, quadruple your profits in the same bull run. And yes, I'm going to have people saying, what about tax? Guys, if you're making money, you're just getting taxed a portion of that money. You're still making more money out of it. It's like, oh, well, you can profit $1,000, but you're getting taxed $300. It's like, I'm still making $700. It's completely worth it, right? So take advantage of this, guys. The warning sign is essentially when that first run goes up, take your profits on the altcoins that are exceptionally performing in that sort of top, and then reinvest in the ones that haven't quite pumped up, or at least the narratives that haven't pumped up in that first one for the second top. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Really appreciate every single one of you. Hopefully you can take this information on board and utilize it, and please share it with friends because everyone needs to know about this. There's no point you and I keeping the secret forever. Take good care, guys. Talk to you soon. Bye.